Welcome to How to Read the NSF ATE Solicitation. Your presenter is Elaine Kraft, PI of Mentor Connect, Leadership Development and Outreach for ATE. These break time videos are sponsored by the CCTA, the Center's Collaborative for Technical Assistance, an NSF ATE funded grant. CCTA's original purpose was to respond to a request from the Department of Labor, DOL, to the NSF to have ATE centers provide technical assistance services to DOL tax grantees. And now that tax grants are over, we are focusing strictly on helping NSF grantees and proposal writers. Our deliverables are to provide technical assistance webinars, workshops, and best practice documents.
Thank you, Christina. There is a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen, but just to reiterate, today I do not speak for the National Science Foundation. The opinions and advice I provide are my own. The solicitation is essentially a call for proposals. This document is very specific and packed with information you must pay attention to in order to be successful. While the language is clear, there are expectations for grant proposals that are not clearly spelled out in the solicitation. There are elements that will make a proposal more competitive that are not fully articulated. Familiarity with the program gained from being a grantee, spending time around NSF ATE program officers and other grantees, and serving as a reviewer of proposals being considered for funding are ways you learn to fill in the blanks. As I run through the organization of the current NSF ATE solicitation, I will point out areas where what is printed may not be the whole story. First, I want to make sure you know how to access the NSF ATE solicitation. This slide has the information that you need to do that. Once you access the solicitation, the most critical information is presented first. Program name and relevant solicitation number, due dates for proposals, which you'll note are set for 3 years at a time, significant changes from the last solicitation referred to as revision notes. The program title is listed again. There's a synopsis of the program, a succinct message about what the program is all about and what the program will support with grant funding. A competitive proposal will always align with this statement. And cognizant program officers for the program are provided. One thing to note is this listing may not always be accurate at any point in time. NSF uses a large number of temporary program officers who are STEM faculty from colleges and universities around the country. These temporary employees are generally referred to as rotators. They typically work at NSF 2 years, although the range is 1 to 3 years. And then they return to their home institutions. Dr. Celeste Carter is a permanent program officer at NSF, but the other cognizant program officers listed in the current solicitation are not and may be replaced during the life of the solicitation. Award information indicates the anticipated ATE program budget and estimated number of awards that will be made each year. Budget limitations for specific proposals are covered later in the solicitation. Eligibility requirements point you to the Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide, the PAPPG. There are a number of cross-references to this NSF publication in the solicitation. It is an annually updated publication at NSF. The who may serve as a PI is perhaps misleading in that it says no restrictions apply. In reality, NSF ATE really expects STEM faculty to be PI on most grants. Grant writers should never be included as PIs or co-PIs, no matter how involved they are in the project before or after funding. Full-time administrators are also not preferred. PIs do not have to hold advanced degrees. What is more important in the ATE program is knowledge and experience, and this includes work in industry. Any number of ATE awards have PIs with associate or baccalaureate degrees. but the individuals have 15 or 20 years of experience working in industry and have extensive discipline-specific knowledge needed for the project. The suitability of an individual to lead a proposed scope of work is more important than academic degrees. Other elements in this section are self-explanatory. However, there are good reasons to submit ATE proposals in the NSF FastLane system rather than in grants.gov. NSF is required to make both available and can't endorse one over the other, but I can. I will give you more specifics later. Budgetary information is covered in more depth later in the solicitation, so we'll skip that for now too. Due dates for proposal submission are listed 3 times in the proposal, so there's really no excuse for not knowing when proposals are due. NSF merit review criteria apply to all NSF proposal reviews. These 2 criteria are intellectual merit and broader impact. I'll say this again later, but it is important to define these terms as NSF and ATE define them. Don't assume you know what these terms mean. Award administration talks about 2 types of awards that are made, standard and continuing, but it doesn't say what these terms mean. In one case, the full amount of the multi-year award is made when the grant is awarded. This is a standard award. In the other case, the funding award is released annually in the amount of the approved budget for the year. Reporting requirements are also mentioned, but specifics are buried deeper in the solicitation. Program description. This is the meatiest portion of the solicitation in terms of preparing an actual proposal. There's so much content here. This section has its own table of contents. If eligible for small grants for institutions new to ATE, meaning that you have not had an ATE grant with a start date within 7 years, or you have never had an ATE grant, this is the place to start if you want to dramatically increase the odds that your proposal will be funded. Otherwise, ATE projects is the best funding opportunity. All other opportunities are very specific and generally are awarded to those who have had multiple ATE awards and notable success. This summary of program requirements is important. It tells you that what the expectations are for any grant. Doing work that impacts or can benefit technician education beyond your institution is very important in the ATE program. Also, ATE really stresses building on the work of others. They expect you to use the resources provided, thoroughly research work on the same topics, or incorporating the same strategies, and to build up and incorporate as much as possible, as opposed to reinventing the wheel. The program description outlines the funding tracks that are available. In some cases, there are multiple funding options within a track. Choosing the right grant to pursue will give you a complete competitive advantage. Check with a program officer or Mentor Connect if you're not sure. Also, indicate in your proposal opening statement the opportunity you are pursuing. This helps program officers place the proposal in the right panel for review. Next is award information. The one point I want to make here is that you should go from project idea to the funding opportunity and budget, not the other way around. This strategy generally results in a more competitive proposal. Don't just say, I'm going to go for a certain dollar number grant. Start with a really good idea. You should submit your proposal in FastLane, NSF's web portal for grant submission, and a number of other functions. Submitting in grants.gov is permissible, but not advisable. Grants.gov does not enforce NSF deadlines and does not support some of the required forms for NSF proposal. This makes submission a multi-step process with an uncertain time lag between, and required forms must be submitted through FastLane. So, learn to use FastLane. You will be glad you did. The next section helps you outline your proposal. Create a skeleton using all of the required proposal parts listed so that you won't leave out a required section. Beware of supplementary documents. The ATE program differs from the PAPPG about this, and the solicitation governs what's permissible. Budgetary requirements listed are clear, but there are nuances that need additional explanation. Review the current year webinar on budget and budget justification development available from Mentor Connect. There is also a tutorial available that's based on that webinar. Use this resource to avoid mistakes. Due dates are repeated a third time in the solicitation in this location. Some of the limitations of grants.gov for submitting proposals to NSF are listed here as well. All NSF proposals are reviewed based on two criteria: intellectual merit and broader impacts. These criteria and the peer review process NSF uses to guide funding decisions is considered the gold standard among federal agencies. But as I mentioned earlier, you need to make sure that you understand what NSF and ATE mean by these terms. It isn't always what you might think. Details are in the PAPPG for NSF, all NSF, and in the ATE solicitation for ATE-specific interpretation. The solicitation ends by telling you what to expect if selected for an award. What it doesn't tell you is what happens after submission and review and before an award is made. This is a topic for another webinar, so stay tuned. General information you need to access program officers and NSF are provided to conclude the solicitation. I've provided some suggestions for how to prioritize your work as you begin your NSF ATE proposal. First, obviously, is to determine your eligibility. In particular, will you be eligible to apply for a small grant for institutions new to ATE, where the funding rate is the highest among all ATE funding opportunities? It also makes you eligible for additional Mentor Connect support. Next, select project focus in the context of your local and regional needs and ATE priorities. Then do your research and build on previously funded projects to the extent possible. Once you've done this, prepare and send a one-page statement of what it is that you think you would like to do, what your project will achieve, to a program officer. Request written or telephone feedback to determine the best track to submit your proposal to. Or you can contact the help desk at Mentor Connect, and one of our team will help you make this decision. Engage faculty in project and proposal development. That is a key success factor for the ATE program. Faculty need to be the drivers of ATE projects. If they have not really written or articulated the bulk of the program or project that you're planning to implement, reviewers will know this, they will sense it, they will pick it up, and your proposal will not be as competitive. These simply just cannot be written just by a grant writer. And take advantage of ATE community and supports. Read and reread the solicitation and start early. Now, Christina, back to you.
Thank you, Elaine, for that wonderful presentation.